Okay, I've gone handheld for this little piece because I wanted to move the camera around a little bit and show some different things that have happened. So apologies in advance for the wobbly nature of the camera work. Just looking at the map, as we can see there, you'll notice bottom right the absence of CCA. That's because the Americans won the activation on the 16th, and the first thing I did with CCA was bring it back down the road, from the main road from Sidi Bouzid, Highway 125 there. So if we track down, there we can see CCA is now scuttled back kind of out of harm's way a little bit. It only managed a partial, so it was really because the road net was there which made it pull back down that road, and it failed its second activation, so that's where it stayed. The other implication of that is, you'll see if I just track back up again, you can see where I've put the green markers on those two units, top center and far left. Those are the two American infantry units who are part of CCA but are protected. They can be isolated, if you like, so long as they remain in the hex they were set up in, which those two units have done. What you would notice though is that there's a big red marker in almost the centre of the map there. That's the other infantry unit, which was trying to get back to CCA, but obviously with CCA then pulling back, it's now isolated again, and unfortunately it's taken hits, so it'll disappear as a combat unit the next time CCA is activated, probably. After CCA, the first unit to activate on the German side was Gerhard. So if we move over here, there he is there, and you can see again the tanks basically just stayed in place. The Pioneers moved up, and we called in pretty sure we called in the air to hit those guys on the Jebel. So there's kind of preparation for combat, but actually again Gerhard then failed his second activation, although he did pass his fatigue roll, so the fatigue hasn't increased at all. So not a great deal happened there. We then went to CCC, who, if I pull back over here, CCC moved down that track you can see coming in from the left there. Now the armour unit, which you can see just below the headquarters there, that was actually where the green square is. So initially what we'd done was we'd moved up the infantry, the mech infantry, who are now underneath the Cairns Crossroad objective marker that you can see there, deployed by shoot. So the infantry were deployed in Cairns Crossroad. It was a good activation. In fact, it was good two activations. CCC did very well. So they got into prep def. They put the armour in place, and the armour was hopefully going to cover the infantry. But you can see when the Germans came to move, unfortunately, Shoot managed to bring up that Pioneer unit again, and I think again we brought in artillery, I think, to hit that unit, so it's taken casualties. We're moving up for the attack. Probably fortunately again the German activation was only a partial, so they couldn't kind of throw themselves straight into it. But the bad news here was the Germans then air rolled successfully for no fatigue increase, so they're staying fresh, and secondly they rolled a 4 for their second activation, so they've got a successful second activation, which is why I kind of thought I wanted to show this as it stood at the moment, because that was CCC achieving its objective of getting back into Cairns Crossroad, but unfortunately it looks like the Germans are going to probably throw them back out of there despite the prep def, but we'll see how that goes over the next turn. Okay, so let's look at that attack by shoot. I think without further ado, basically the Pioneers will stay in place, and I think what the Germans would then do is bring up the motorised infantry, and we'll just go straight in to try and push them back. So the overall net is +1. The Germans would have +1 for support, +2 because we'll fire once again a suppression mission from the HQ. That's +3, +4 for the assist, +5 for the double objective zone, +4 because overall it'll drop to 4 because the US unit has prepared defense. So that's going to be it. +4 modifier. And Germans roll a 7. So 11 to 12 is a D1, and that's a pucker retreat again. Yeah, unfortunately, the saviour of having, if it had been a lesser result, you get a situational retreat, and a situational retreat you can negate either through good terrain or through prepared defence. Unfortunately, with these losses being full retreats, there's not much we can do with that. So he needs to take a loss, so he's going to go down to 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and obviously he's also flipped to his movement side to move. Actually, he should be showing his movement side as well. And that's Cairns Crossroads going back to the Germans. And I think just to tidy that up, what I would probably do is, because their work here is, I mean, we could go on and hit again, couldn't we? In fact, we may as well do that. 1, 2. Three to there. And we'll just try a fire. So we basically use the barrage, so it'll be it's not a hard unit, no city, no terrain. 3 to 6. That was a 1, so the first fire attack failed. Might as well throw in a second one. And that was a 2, so the second fire attack failed. So the the German attacking armour singly failed to connect there, really. Disappointing, but there you go. I'm going to bring these guys up just to seal up the other side of that. Likewise, we'll just deploy them back over the over the old Roman aqueduct. And now we roll for fatigue again. Okay, stays fresh. Kampf group is looking good. Okay, that's the end of shoots. Back to the Americans, and this is the arrival of CCB. So let's see what CCB can conjure. I think the obvious is they need to get in place to protect some of these other victory hexes, because that's now the Germans back in position, having Spatler, Cairns Crossroads, Sidi Bouzid. So the Americans or the Allies need to do something to protect these units, these victory hexes. Okay, quick little look at where CCB got to. Came down the road past Spiva and set up prep def with a second activation on the victory hexes for the Kef again there at 5131, I think that is. Not as adventurous as you would have really liked, I think, but we're getting to the end game in a way. The trouble is that I don't think there's much the Americans are going to do to further push this back. There's two good formations come on next turn in the shape of the Guards and the 34th Infantry, but they're all going to come in on this corner. They might be able to grab victory hexes to stymie the Germans from getting that last one, and that's what it's all going to come down to, I think, at the minute. Yeah. Okay, another new player enters the game. This is Kampfgruppe Lang. Essentially, they are going to replace Gerhard, so Gerhard will disappear and Lang will stay for the end of the game. So what I did was I brought them in on that same flank. You can see where the combat trains are back here. They rolled a full activation. It promptly came on, prepared to put in an attack against the remnants of this American, much beaten up on American infantry unit here. The German armour moved up, fired at it for one casualty, and then one unit for support and one unit to attack. I think it was a +4 overall, and they rolled a 9, which finally saw off the valiant defenders. So we're now going to roll for fatigue. They've rolled a 6, so again no increase, they stay fresh. They're getting good results on this at the minute. Now we roll for second activation, so we're looking for a 4. We rolled a 3, but because they're fresh they get a +1, so they'd be 4, so that's a second activation. Now for Snafu, they roll a 10. Sorry, you can't quite see that. A 10. So that again gives them a second activation. Ideal, I guess, given that Gerhard's going to go, they can kind of fill in that flank. I think naturally they're going to have to stay in a mobile mode. So I think that's what we do. We kind of move them up there, and they're now in prime position. I don't know if I can just maybe move this a little bit to show you. Yeah, you can see there's definitely another victory hex just there. So they're in prime position to grab one of those victory hexes. Now that would actually be Lang complete. That was his second activation. And we'll just scan down the board. Yeah, because the Allies now have nobody to move. The Germans still have Stankov, who's still dealing with the remnants of CCA, and Riem, who hasn't actually moved since he dug in at Spitler.